A silent question sits beneath centuries of history. Why have Africans so often been viewed by powerful societies not merely as competitors, but as a threat? The answer cannot be explained by a single era. It stretches across thousands of years, moving through ancient kingdoms, modern cities, conquest, and resistance. Long before the modern world emerged, Africa was the center of human civilization. The story of humanity begins here. Every human alive traces their ancestry back to this soil. Ancient Africa was a vast collection of civilizations. Across the Nile Valley emerged Egypt, transforming mathematics, architecture, and engineering, standing as humanity's greatest center of power. To the south flourished the Kingdom of Kush, a powerful civilization that rivaled Egypt, controlling strategic trade routes and developing sophisticated iron industries. Across West Africa, great empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai emerged as major players in global commerce, connecting distant regions through trade and immense wealth. Mansa Musa's historic 14th-century pilgrimage to Mecca distributed so much gold it altered regional economies and permanently captured the attention of distant global kingdoms. But wealth alone does not explain their influence. Cities like Timbuktu became world centers of learning, housing thousands of manuscripts covering astronomy, law, and mathematics. If Africa possessed such advanced institutions, why did later narratives deny these achievements? Because powerful societies justify dominance by portraying those they exploit as inferior. The transatlantic slave trade was a massive, violent economic system. Forced African labor generated extraordinary wealth, expanding global ports, industries, and entire empires. To hide the moral bankruptcy of this system, race was invented. A worldview of natural African inferiority spread, serving deep economic interests. Yet despite extraordinary oppression, enslaved Africans never stopped resisting. They escaped, rebelled, and fiercely preserved their languages, spiritual traditions, and cultural memory. Then came an event that terrified colonial empires, the Haitian Revolution. Enslaved Africans challenged the most powerful imperial systems of the age, and won. The fear of African self-determination led to the 19th century colonial scramble. Empires accelerated competition to control Africa's extraordinary minerals, land, and labor. Colonial narratives portrayed African societies as incapable of self-governance. Today, those same historical distortions feed modern stereotypes of chaos, poverty, and dependency. But history resurfaces. As new generations re-examine archives and uncover archaeological discoveries, a fuller picture emerges, completely shattering old imperial myths. By the 19th century, a strange contradiction took hold. African labor and knowledge built global empires, yet Africans were systematically portrayed as uncivilized. To sustain this lie, an extraordinary effort emerged under the mask of reason, measurement, and false authority, the project of scientific racism. Across Europe and the Americas, scholars measured skulls and cataloged bodies. Their goal was never true discovery, it was validation for colonial domination. A dangerous illusion took root. Societies blamed global inequalities on natural inferiority. These myths spread deeply through institutions. Schools, governments, and popular culture repeated them, embedding prejudice within the psychological architecture of generations that erasing the true history of conquest, exploitation, and violence. But beneath these fabricated narratives, reality moved differently. Across Africa, resistance never stopped. It simply changed its form across the centuries. Kings resisted expansion, warriors challenged armies, and writers documented histories. Every story remembered became a direct challenge to historical erasure. This unrelenting desire for freedom haunted colonial administrations. To maintain control, they framed African freedom fighters not as patriots, but as dangerous threats. The pattern echoed worldwide. In the diaspora, communities built schools, businesses, and intellectual movements, demanding a world that recognized their full humanity. By the mid-20th century, the impossible became inevitable. Independence movements swept Africa, changing flags, governments, and reclaiming human dignity. Yet independence generated anxiety among established global powers. They asked, What happens when people long viewed as subordinate begin acting as equals? This anxiety was tied directly to resources. From gold and oil to the cobalt fueling modern phones and electric vehicles, global industries depend on African soil. But Africa's true power is demographic. As the youngest region on Earth, millions of young minds are entering industries, technology, and global commerce. The continent is now a global producer of culture. African musicians, filmmakers, and writers are reshaping imagination, dominating charts, and winning worldwide recognition. For centuries, Africa was spoken about. Now Africa is speaking for itself. When people control their own narratives, distortions crumble and humanity becomes undeniable. Old fears resurface because autonomy challenges past exclusion. But as voices align with truth, the world is forced to confront realities it can no longer avoid. As independence bloomed, global powers scrambled to split the continent. The Cold War turned African territories into ideological chessboards, testing new sovereignties. Yet some leaders refused to follow the path laid out for them. Across the continent, powerful voices called for true independence, arguing that political freedom meant little without economic self-reliance. They warned that dependence could become a new form of control, hidden behind the language of assistance and development. Simultaneously, a massive intellectual counteroffensive was born. African historians systematically dismantled Eurocentric lies, rewriting global textbooks with rigorous, unassailable evidence. Every era presents the exact same question: who gets to define progress? For centuries, participation was denied because exclusion was highly profitable. We have finally arrived at a moment when the old narratives no longer hold their grip over the global imagination. After centuries of being overshadowed and dismissed, Africans and people of African descent are actively reshaping our modern world. This is not happening in some distant, imagined future. It is unfolding right now, across a revolution of global excellence. In arenas once heavily dominated by others, African athletes are consistently breaking records and shattering every low expectation. What once began as a slow trickle of continental talent has transformed into an unstoppable, historic flood. From rookies to legendary superstars, these players bring their grit, their creativity, and their distinct artistry to the world stage. This power goes far beyond points or trophies. It is about completely redefining what is possible for a global generation. Music has sparked its own historic revolution. The hypnotic rhythms of Afrobeat, born in Lagos, now pulse in every corner of the earth. African artists are consistently topping charts across Europe, the Americas, and Asia, proving their ancestral strength is universally felt. Even the legendary global icons of the past were profoundly shaped and inspired by foundational African musical structures. Yet still, there are those who stubbornly refuse to acknowledge this immense shift, clinging tightly to outdated stereotypes. They insist this global success is merely a fleeting anomaly, trying desperately to trap Africa in a past it has already transcended. But the truth is completely undeniable. African innovation is surging rapidly across the fast-moving sectors of technology. In tech capitals like Nairobi, Lagos, and Johannesburg, brilliant startups are completely rewriting the future of global banking. African fintech, designers, and scientists are winning global respect, reshaping everything from finance to sustainable architecture. And as Africa rises, so does its sovereign voice. People are no longer waiting for external validation. They have firmly seized the narrative, reminding the world that this continent has always been a source of ingenuity. The outdated ideas that once held us back are being answered decisively in every single arena of human endeavor. In sports, music, business, and technology, we are no longer distant observers. We are actively writing the future. Our contributions have never been a footnote. They are the pulse, the heartbeat, compelling the world toward a vibrant tomorrow.